Welcome back, True Seeker. Saturday, September 1st, 2018. This morning, a feature story about how John McCain is going to be buried next to his friend from the Navy, Chuck Larson. And like McCain, Chuck Larson supposedly died from cancer. I want to show you what's so interesting about this story and the day Chuck Larson died, July 26th, 2014. So, we'll start here. This story comes on September 1st, a date that can be written 1/9 like 19 or 9/1 like 91. And both McCain and Mr. Larson are Navy men. Notice that in the language of Gematria, a language that's very important to Freemasonry, which has its headquarters in Washington, D.C., and where the majority of our politicians from the start of this nation up to the present are in Freemasonry. Anyhow, Navy sums to 19 in the base ciphers, as does Chuck. And we're getting this story about John McCain and Chuck Larson today. Look at how this headline here emphasizes John McCain will be buried beside his wingman, and they emphasize wingman. With the most simple cipher, known as simple English gematria, there's 4 base ciphers. The easiest is the alphabetic order. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z, the 26th letter, is 26. W, the first letter in wingman, is the 23rd letter. I is the 9th. You just take the numerical value based on the alphabetic order, add up the letters of the word. Wingman sums to 81, like the age John McCain just died at. And the media always does this, emphasizes phrases or words that have gematria that's relevant to the story. Remember, John McCain, again, just died at age 81, and we call that the ritual number, something we talk about often on this channel. Again, just to go back to August 1st, a month ago, if you go back and read the headlines from August 1st, 8/1, the top stories were Obama endorsing 81 candidates, the Dow Jones dropping 81 points, and the coach of Ohio State, Urban Meyer, getting in trouble. And if you look, Urban Meyer's coached 81 games at Ohio State to date, and if you look at his birthday, he has birth numerology of 81. This number's used in rituals a lot. With the alphabetic order, ritual equals 81. When you flip the alphabetic order around, making Z1, counting up to A is 26, ritual sums to 81. Also in the base ciphers, Senator McCain sums to 81. Now look at this emphasized phrase right here. Chuck has his wingman back. Chuck has his wingman back sums to 91. And this is the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. So here we are on September 1st, the day leaving 121 days left in the year. I just talked about what's special about the number 121 in regards to what's going on with John McCain since his death. It's been proposed by Chuck Schumer, another Chuck, the senator in New York, that the Richard Russell Senate Office Building be changed to the McCain Senate Office Building. And Richard Russell Jr., which the building's named after, he died January 21st. 1/21. Russell's Senate Office Building, which it's called, sums to 121, and if they change it to McCain's Senate Office Building, it'll also sum to 121. That's the cipher with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology. Out of the 4 base ciphers, that is the most important cipher. Not only did Richard Russell die on a date that connects with the name of the building, he also died on his 81st day of his age, this man. He was born November 2nd. He died January 21st, the 81st day of his age. He was 73 years old. Remember, that's a big number with McCain. McCain has 73 birth numerology. He was released as a prisoner of war in 73, and his death just came on Trump's 73rd day of his age. And then on Monday, August 27th, 2018, a date with 73 numerology, the story emerged that Trump's not invited to McCain's funeral, but Obama and George H.W. Bush are. Rituals in numbers. The word sacrifice also sums to 73, as does ritual sacrifice. Richard Russell dead at 73. So, going to skip over some of this information I've jotted down here. I want to keep talking about this relationship with John McCain and Chuck Larson, his wingman. They say they were in the graduating class of 58. And 58, that very special number to Freemasonry, which has its headquarters in Washington, D.C., the city named after the Freemason George Washington. In that same cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. And in case you're new here and you haven't watched my other videos where I've taught about this, what that means is F is the 6th letter, so F is worth 6 in this cipher. R is the 18th letter. No letter can be worth more than a single-digit number. So what you do with 18 is you take the numerology of 18. 1 plus 8 is 9, so R is worth 9. E's the 5th letter, E's 5. E's 5. M's the 13th letter. The numerology of 13 is 1 plus 3 is 4. Simple math. A is 1. S is the 19th letter. S is the only letter in the English alphabet you have to reduce 2 times to get to a single digit. So S becomes, instead of 19, it becomes 1 plus 9 is 10. And then again, 10 becomes 1 plus 0 is 1. So S is 1. But anyway, Freemasonry 58, Rosicrucian 58. Modern Freemasonry came out of Rosicrucianism. Secret Society 58. And there's a whole lot more to this list, which I cover in my book. There's a really long list of things affiliated with Freemasonry that sum to 58, including Tracing Board, Solomon's Temple, and a whole lot more. And with regards to people being killed by the numbers, King James, who has the Bible named after him, he was a Rosicrucian, he was a Freemason, and he dropped dead at age 58, and absolutely not arbitrarily. With regards to D.C. being the headquarters of Freemasonry, both Washington and the United States have Gematria 58. That's when you make S worth 10 instead of 1. That's the thing about S. It can be worth 10 or 1 because you have to reduce it 2 times. It has that special property. Washington, United States, both 58, nation founded by Freemasons. It all makes perfect sense. With regards to Trump being part of this ritual of McCain's death, let's not forget that Trump is the winner of the 58th U.S. presidential election. He won that after he announced he would run from his 58-story Trump Tower, the one they love to keep bringing in focus, where they've had all these secret meetings with Russia, etc. And don't forget that on Inauguration Day, he hired 58-year-old Steve Ray, the Washington Nationals announcer, and not by accident. It's all ritual. And my favorite detail is when Donald Trump won the election, Hillary put out her book on why she lost, and she titled it, What Happened? 58. Remember, Freemasonry is an all-men's club. But with regards to these two men, John McCain and Chuck Larson being the graduating class of 58, Chuck Larson died July 26th. Now, we've talked about this date. Very special date in history. Very Masonic date. July 26th is the day that leaves 158 days left in the year. Another 58 in there. Also in the base ciphers, Freemasonry equals 158 when you flip the alphabetic order around. What are the odds? And they say he died from leukemia. Look at this. They say he died from leukemia. He died 118 days from his birthday, right? Death has Gematria of 118. When you flip the alphabetic order around, cancer also has Gematria of 118. John McCain and this man both dead from cancer. And most people wouldn't question that because so many people in this nation die from cancer. You know, most of us are likely to die from cancer or heart disease in the society we live in, with all the poisons and toxins in our food and the poor education around nutrition, which sadly is the truth about our society. But it's clear to see that both of these men were murdered in Masonic rituals, and they were both likely Freemasons. Freemasonry kills their own, as I've covered many times. You do not want to be part of this society. It is not a nice thing. It might present itself as, honorable and about service and increasing knowledge. And while all of that is true to an extent, there's a really dark, terrible half to Freemasonry, and that's what we expose on this channel every single day. Also, Charles Larson, he was 77 years old when he died. Very special number. United States has that gematria of 77. The American meridians in Washington, D.C., the 77th meridian. And when I say 77 in Washington, D.C., it should remind you of something. If you're drawing a blank, I'll remind you. Flight 77. That's what hit the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001. And the reason that's funny is if you look in the 9/11 Commission Report and look at what time Flight 77 took off and what time it crashed into the Pentagon, it was exactly 77 minutes later. And worse yet, you look at the coordinates. Again, DC's on the 77th meridian. The Pentagon is 77 feet tall. If you write out September 11th as words, it sums to 77, alphabetic order and rules of numerology. If you write out World Trade Center, alphabetic order and rules of numerology, sums to 77. I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic here, but this code of letters and numbers, it comes from Jewish Kabbalah. If you write out Judaism, it sums to 77. If you write out Zionist, it sums to 77. There are some people in the Jewish community who are very much aware of this code and use it every day for agenda. And that's because these Jewish people go by the Talmud, which says the Jews are God's chosen people and their purpose is to command the rest of humanity, the Goyim, which are the slave race. It's why the day after 9/11, Ehud Barak, the leader of Israel, came over to the United States and said the United States needed to declare a war on terrorism against the region of the world where we've been ever since. Israel's a terrorist state. So is the United States of America, and they're both controlled by the same Zionist banker tyrants. So some other notes here, things that jump out that I haven't talked about before in my other videos on John McCain. His friend Chuck Larson, who he's going to be buried next to, what jumps out about his name is that with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, his name sums to 44. And we've talked about that number a whole lot in regards to the death of McCain. McCain died from brain cancer with the alphabetic order, brain 44, cancer 44. So was chemo, so was kill. He died August 25th, 2018, a date with a life lesson number of 44. He died on the same day in history that Ted Kennedy died from brain cancer. Ted Kennedy died 9 years earlier, August 25th, 2009. Also a date with a life lesson number of 44. And notice Ted Kennedy with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, 44. I also noticed that Navy pilot in that same cipher sums to 44. Both men were Navy pilots. Call it a coincidence. Now there's a lot of other things that jump out about his name, but I'm going to skip that and focus on this instead. The date that McCain died, August 25th, it's the day leaving 128 days left in the year. He's going to be buried in Maryland, which also has gematria of 128 when you flip the alphabetic order around. And knowing that that number is no coincidence with Maryland, look at what just happened in the March Madness basketball tournament. In case you're new here, I've been proving that sports are rigged by calling out championships, pro and college, and what the scores will be and what the numbers will be long before they happen. Been doing it for years. I've done it more than any other person in the history of the world, and that's a fact. I can say that without any smirk. No gimmicks here. That's just a fact. I have called more sports games, championships, specific details, who will be MVPs, what the halftime show will be, all from understanding this code. Things are rigged this way, from the world of sports, to the world of propaganda news, to the murder of celebrities, politicians, etc. This is the code that the elite used to script the world around us, if you will. But anyway, this past year in March Madness, there was the first time a number 16 seed beat a number 1 seed. And the score of that game was 74-54, 128 combined points. Maryland, it was a Maryland school that was the 16 seed. And the reason that rigged setup and upset happened this year is because it was the 136th time all time a 16 seed played a 1 seed. If you add 1 through 16 together, it equals 136. The upset came on March 16th. On the 16th day of March, a 16 seed beats a 1 seed for the first time. In the 136th all-time, there was a 16 versus a 1. Again, 136 is the 16th triangular number. That means that last year's tournament was also the 34th tournament where 16s play ones. There's 4 opportunities each tournament. There's 4 16s and there's 4 number ones. 34 times 4 is 136. Maryland, with the alphabetic order and rules of numerology, also sums to 34. So it was a Maryland ritual in that upset. And the combined score was 128 points. And the word upset equals 54, and Virginia, who lost, went down with 54 points. Also, Maryland won with 74, which is the big number with Masonry. Masonic 74 and a whole lot more. So just wanted to throw that note in there for some additional information. Again, you learn this code, it'll take you places. Maryland with the alphabetic order also sums to 88. 128 with the reverse alphabetic order, 88 with the alphabetic order. Just like brain cancer. Just like August 25th in the base cipher. In case you're wondering how this cipher works, it's just the alphabetic order in reverse with the rules of numerology. Those are your 4 ciphers. Alphabetic order, forwards and backwards, and then forwards and backwards with the rules of numerology. But John McCain, Ted Kennedy, both dead from brain cancer on August 25th. McCain was in the Republican Party, 88. As a reminder, the Republican Party had a really bad week. The week McCain died. It was Manafort going down on guilty of 8 counts. It was Michael Cohen pleading guilty to 8 counts, 8 and 8. They did it August 21st. When you write out August 21st as words, it sums to 88. The 2 men connected to Trump, 88. Remember, Masonic ritual, 88. All of this stuff's contrived. The Paul Manafort story is contrived. By the way, Manafort with the alphabetic order equals 88. The Michael Cohen story is contrived. The Duncan Hunter story is contrived. The other congressman, the first one to endorse Trump, I can't even think of his name right now, but I have a video on it if you want to go through my channel. His whole story contrived, and they're all contrived around these same numbers. What's interesting is so many people who've watched my McCain video, they've asked me, what is the Gematria of Traitor and what is the Gematria of Hanoi? A lot of people have asked that question. They've had the intuition to ask that. For those of you who are waiting for the answers to that question, Gematria.com. Somebody found my work a couple years ago now, maybe even more than a couple years now. Time flies. I think it's almost been a couple years. And they thought this work was insane because I used to do it by hand and I used to write out everything and I used to just do the math on the screen. But then he was watching me and said, you know what? I think there's something to this. And he ended up getting really into it and he built this calculator. Gematria.com has all 4 of the base ciphers. You just type in a word here and it'll calculate all 4 base ciphers for you really fast. By the way, Apple, since I just wrote that in there, Apple's unveiling their new smartphones on September 12th, 2018, a date with numerology at 23. And look at smartphone. September 12th, 12/9. How about it? I'm telling you learn this code, you're going to start seeing a lot of things. But anyway, the point is you can come here and you can use this, and right away you just get to see all 4 of the base ciphers. But what's strange is Traitor and Hanoi both sum to 88. The story is John McCain was shot down in Vietnam. He had to stay at the Hanoi Hilton. That's what they call it. Hanoi Hilton. Think about that. HH. H is the 8th letter. 88. But notice, Traitor's 88. Hanoi's 88. Some people say he went there and then he participated in making propaganda films against the United States and yada, yada, yada. I don't get caught up in all that because I realize that these wars that we've been fighting ever since pretty much World War I, pretty much all these nations that participate are nations that are participants in the New World Order. And they participate in these wars that start and end by the numbers. And it means, essentially at the top, the same bankers are controlling all of it. Because these bankers are making all this money off of lending and rebuilding. And essentially it's a collection of world leaders who are in it together, who serve these tyrants, for their own selfish gain, and then sell out all the people beneath them. Just like how McCain sold out all of his American people, Same thing goes on in these other nations. So, you know, anyway, it is very interesting that people ask this, and it turns out both Traitor and Hanoi are also 88 in light of that being a big ritual with McCain's passing. And again, learn the code, see things. And because Derek's built this calculator, it makes it easy for you to do the same type of work that I do, that he now does, that many other people do. And if you are new here and you're getting into this, what I do on my blog is anytime anybody informs me that they've made a Gematria YouTube channel or a Gematria blog, I link it on the side of my page. So all these links here are other people who've started making Gematria blogs. And if there's anybody out there who has one and I'm not aware, please, down in the comments here, leave a comment and say, hey, this is the link to my Gematria blog. And just as a word of caution, if you put your blog link in there, YouTube's probably going to put your comment in the spam bin, so it might disappear. But don't worry, because I frequently check the spam bin, the spam bin, and I pull the comments out of there. And if you don't see your comment show up within, 24 hours, then maybe post it again, because sometimes YouTube will just delete it all the way, and then I don't even see it in the spam bin. But if you do have a blog or a YouTube channel, please post it in the comments if you're teaching this knowledge, and I am happy to link it on my blog. I want everybody to find your work. I'm so grateful for all the people spreading this work. That's what I've been asking people to do since I started doing this in 2013. So, also down below in the description, a link where you can pick up my book, Letters and Numbers, teaches you everything you need to know about this code. Long history of murder by numbers, propaganda by the numbers, war by the numbers. I guarantee you history buffs will have your mind blown, and you're going to learn something really important about history. Maybe more important than you ever learned in any class or university. And when I say maybe, it's more like most likely you're going to learn something more important than you've learned in any class or university. Probably didn't know that all these wars were scripted in the past, which is something definitely worth knowing. And you'll see just how perfect it's been throughout history. The start date, the end dates, the length of the wars, it's all mathematically thought out, just like all these rituals. Also, I should note that McCain, his funeral is tomorrow, February 9th, 2018. That's a date with 49 numerology, special number to this nation as well. America has the Gematria 49. Washington has the Gematria 49. Scottish has the Gematria 49. George Washington, a Scottish Rite Freemason. Scottish Rite Freemasons largely established this nation. They seem to be the ones who had the most significance on encoding the English language with these numbers. That's why there's this hit show, Lodge 49, that just came out. It's about a secret order. The leader of that lodge, by the way, is Larry Loomis, 58, Freemasonry 58. Larry's also just 74 right here, and 29, just like Masonic. Notice the 43, the word lodge, 43, McCain 43. They announced that McCain ended his brain cancer treatment the day before his death, a date with numerology of 43. Then they came out with a story about how he was from Jacksonville during the time he was a prisoner of war, and then the next day you get a shooting in Jacksonville by the numbers. Anyway, we've said enough already, Truth Seeker. We'll leave it there. Until next time.